Welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are looking at the bill of materials from a high-end AV install today, and our mission is to figure out why one specific line item is, well, so shocking.
Yeah, it's a very specific piece of hardware. We are talking about the Kramer CON-FIELD-360, or the 999210-36001.
Right, a massive mouthful for what most of us just think of as a standard Ethernet plug. I mean, usually you buy those in bulk jars, right? They cost pennies.
Yeah.
You drop one on the floor, you don't even bother picking it up.
Exactly. They are completely disposable.
But this Kramer unit, the price tag per unit, made my eyes water a bit. So I had to play devil's advocate for you listening at home. Is an industrial-grade field assembly connector actually worth blowing your budget on, or is this just pure over-engineering?
Well, it definitely looks like over-engineering right up until you are actually up on a ladder trying to terminate a shielded Cat6a cable.
Oh, those are incredibly stiff.
They really are. You are fighting the separator, the foil, the drain wire, and trying to line all those tiny conductors up into a standard plastic pass-through plug without them crossing over.
It's a total nightmare.
It is a nightmare, and if you don't have the exact right crimping tool for that specific brand of plug, you are just out of luck.
Which brings us to the first huge advantage we found in the documentation.
Yeah.
This is a no-crimp design.
Right. You do not need a heavy compression tool anymore.
The specs mention a stuffer cap with a protected catch, which sounds a little technical. How does that actually work when you have it in your hands?
It's actually really intuitive. Instead of feeding wires into tiny individual tunnels and just praying they stay straight, you thread them into this color-coded cap that is wide open, you trim the excess flush, and then you just snap the die-cast housing closed right over it.
Like a latch.
Exactly like a latch. The housing itself basically acts as the tool. It pushes the IDC contacts down onto the wires, turning a frustrating 5-minute struggle into maybe a 30-second snap.
Okay, so that saves serious time on a big install, which is money. But there is another stat that really caught my eye. The source says these are reconnectable and reusable.
Which is massive for technicians. Usually, if you terminate a standard jack and one wire just doesn't seat right, what do you have to do?
You cut the end off and start completely over.
Yeah, and you lose 2 inches of cable. If you are in a tight rack or a finished wall, you might not have that extra slack. With the Kramer 360, if you mess up, you just pop the housing open.
Pop it open, refeed the wires, and snap it back.
Exactly. You don't destroy the component or the cable length.
The flexibility is huge. And speaking of flexibility, let's talk about the 360 part of the name. That refers to the cable entry, right? It has 8 possible positions.
Right. Think about trying to mount a TV flush against a wall or an access point on a ceiling. Standard connectors force the cable straight back out.
Which means you have to bend the cable aggressively to make it fit in that tight space.
Exactly. Violating the minimum bend radius, which degrades your signal. But this connector lets the cable exit the housing at different angles. Up, down, sideways, diagonals.
So if it routes flat against the back of the TV immediately.
Spot on. It completely eliminates that physical stress on the wire.
Let's give it to the build quality for a second.
Yeah.
But we aren't talking about cheap polycarbonate here. The source highlights a robust zinc die-cast housing. Why use heavy metal for a data plug?
2 words: interference and heat. This plug supports 10 gigabit Ethernet and HD BASE. At those high speeds, alien crosstalk from other cables is a real issue. Zinc creates a fully shielded environment, basically a Faraday cage for your data.
And the heat aspect.
People forget we are pushing massive power over these cables now. This handles PoE, PoE+, and UPoE.
Which is up to 90 watts or more. That is enough to power a whole monitor.
Right. That much current through tiny contacts generates heat. Cheap plastic traps that heat, which can actually warp the cord over time. The zinc housing acts as a heat sink to safely dissipate it.
So when you look at the price, you really aren't just buying a plug. It's a heat-dissipating, multi-directional, reusable instrument. It solves that last-inch problem where a cheap plastic bottleneck can ruin an expensive network.
Exactly. In professional setups, reliability absolutely outweighs the cost of the component failing.
It definitely reframes how you look at the back of a server rack.
Yeah, and honestly, if the humble Ethernet connector has evolved into a precision-engineered reusable component just to handle modern demands, it really makes you wonder how many other disposable parts of our tech infrastructure are silently failing right now because we haven't given them the same high-end overhaul.
That is a fascinating question for you to chew on today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we will catch you next time.